Welcome to the CERIAS Computer Security Seminar from Purdue University. Our speakers today are from the Naval Research Laboratory and the leader of the Tor project, Roger Dingledine, and Paul Syverson will be participating in questions later on. The topic today is anonymous communication for government agencies, corporations, journalists, and you, or the abbreviated title here. Roger?
Okay, I'm Roger. I'm going to be telling you a little bit about the system that we've been working on called Tor. How many people here have heard of Tor? Something like that. I've got a couple of hands. Yes. No. Okay. Sounds good. So the basic idea for Tor is it's an overlay network on the internet that lets people browse the web or instant message without people watching them learning where they're going, or people watching the websites learning where they're coming from. So there are a lot of different pieces to it, and I'll give you a couple of overviews. Feel free to interrupt me during the talk if you've got questions or if I say something that doesn't make any sense. So we're a free software, open source system, not encumbered by patents. You can get it and use it and change it and give it to your friends. It comes with a specification and full documentation, which means that you can actually look at it and decide how it works, and you can build your own compatible Tor client and server. It also means that a lot of researchers have decided to build their own as a test bed. And whenever people are working on research papers, I wonder if this anonymity attack works, or I wonder if this defense works. We're the standard in terms of the thing to go out and test with these days. So there are a lot of research papers at big security conferences that say, well, we thought of this new attack, and we tried it against Tor, and it worked, or it didn't work. Usually they do work, which keeps things exciting from our perspective. So there are a lot of servers out there. There are about 1,500 relays, volunteer-run relays around the world. There are some number of users. It's hard to tell for sure because it's an anonymity system, but we're guessing maybe 200,000 people, 250,000 people are running Tor clients right now. So there are a lot of different groups out there. I think the US, Germany, and China are the top three by user base. And we're pushing a lot of traffic, over a gigabit per second of traffic. I think that rivals Wikipedia and Hotmail in terms of the amount of traffic that they push. We're, as of the end of 2006, an actual nonprofit, which means that we've organized. It's no longer just me and a couple of people, but now we've got a board of directors and other exciting things like that. And we also have 3 full-time developers, which means that we actually have enough people working on the research angle of things and development and user support and stuff like that. If any of you are interested in any of the stuff I talk about today, we could sure use some more volunteers and more people doing research and development and design, all of that. One of the exciting things about Tor is that we've been funded by such a diverse group of people. We started out being funded by the Navy, Department of Defense, and then we were funded by the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which is a freedom of speech, freedom of expression, civil liberties organization in California. And most recently we've been funded by a U.S. government group called the International Broadcasting Bureau. They're the folks who run Voice of America and Radio Free Cuba, stuff like that. They've got some websites around the world that some people can't reach, and they'd like to fix that, and we sure wouldn't mind fixing that. So our focus lately has been on China and Iran and folks in oppressive corporations and the whole set of examples there. Okay, so informally we all have some idea of what anonymity means. Who wrote this blog post, who's been looking at my web pages, who's been sending mail to the patent attorneys. A little bit more formally, we've got this notion of an anonymity set. There are a bunch of Alices over there, and one of them did some transaction with Bob. Maybe they looked at his website, maybe they sent him mail, something like that. So the goal of an anonymity system is to make it the set of possible Alices as large as we can. So that notion is called the anonymity set. And the more Alices there are that might have been doing the transaction, the better off we are. And there are some mathematical ways we can look at that. Rather than just saying how many Alices, we can say what's the probability distribution, how much entropy is there. But that's the basic intuition. And there are a lot of different pieces of the threat model we need to look at. Maybe the attacker is watching Alice's local network connection. Or maybe the attacker is watching Bob's network connection. Or he is Bob. He's maybe CNN, really curious about who's looking at his website. And maybe the attacker is somewhere in the middle of the network, part of the ISPs, part of the network, something like that. So these are the various threats that we might wonder about when we're trying to design a system like that. If the attacker is in all the places for these red boxes, we're in bad shape, and I'll explain that later on. But at least we have some sense of the various places that we might see attacks from. So anonymity isn't crypto. I talk to a lot of corporations and they say, well, that's great, but we have a VPN, so we don't need this anonymity stuff. And encryption is useful. It's certainly a good thing to have. But even if you're encrypting your content, somebody watching it can still figure out who you're talking to, how much you're saying, when you're talking to them. And that's what a lot of people use for traffic analysis when they're trying to figure out who would be exciting to look at and who should we focus more on. There's plenty of space if you want to come in and sit. Feel free. There are seats. There's one there, one over here.
Thank you.
So anonymity isn't crypto. That's something to think about. Another one, anonymity is not steganography. I talk to a lot of people who say, I'm so happy that I'm running Tor now because now nobody knows I'm using the internet. That's not true. People watching you can still figure out that you're sending packets back and forth, and if they look really carefully, they might be able to learn that you're talking to a Tor server and recognize the protocol you're using. So we don't try to prevent people from doing that. We just try to protect against somebody learning that Alice is talking to Bob. So it's the linkability of both of them. Somebody might learn that Alice is using Tor. That's fine, as long as they don't know what she's doing with it. So far, so good? Okay, so there are a lot of other versions of what anonymity might be. If you talk to the peer-to-peer file sharing systems like Freenet, they have a notion of plausible deniability. Yes, somebody asked me for the file, and yes, I gave them the file, but it might not have been me. I mean, maybe I was just relaying it for somebody else. And we talked to, and yes, maybe somebody asked me for the file, and I gave them the file again, but it might not have been me. Maybe I was relaying it. And by the 18th transaction that this person's involved in, each time claiming, well, maybe I was relaying it, statistics works. It becomes more and more unconvincing to claim that maybe they were just relaying it for somebody else. So we'd like something a bit stronger than that. I also talk to various one-hop proxies, corporations that help anonymize your traffic for you. They're just one computer out there. They promise to keep it safe. So they start out saying, well, we promise we won't look at any of the traffic. Okay, we look at the traffic. We promise we won't remember any of the traffic. Okay, we write it all down, but we promise we won't tell anybody anything we see. I don't know what the fourth sentence is there, but I'd like something stronger than that also. And then there's, I didn't write my name on it, and isn't the internet already anonymous? Hopefully I'll explain later on why it isn't. So part of the fun of this is all the different organizations who care about privacy, or however we phrase it. So when I'm talking to my parents and my grandparents, I work on privacy systems. When I'm talking to Google and Walmart, I work on communication security or network security systems. And when I'm talking to the government, I work on traffic analysis resistant communication networks. And part of the fun of this is learning how to phrase it for each different organization. If you go to the government and you say, I've got some privacy for you, they say, oh, I don't need privacy. That's dumb. And if you go to a corporation and you say, we've got anonymity for you, then they say, oh, that's scary. I don't want any of that. But if you learn how to phrase it, of course, corporations need security and governments need to resist traffic analysis. Then part of the fun of this is getting all those organizations into the same network so that they can blend together, so that they can get security or privacy or anonymity from each other. So a few more examples of use cases. These are folks who've come up to us and explained how happy they are that Tor exists because they've fill in the blank. So one example, bloggers. A few years ago, there were a couple of people in California who speculated about what Apple was going to come up with next. And it turns out they were right. So they put that on their blog, and then Apple came after their ISP and said, who are those people? We want to make sure that they shut up. And we could talk about maybe Apple should have asked its own employees, okay, guys, who leaked the information? But I'd like to live in a world where we've got the freedom of speech, freedom of expression to be able to put up something like that on the website, and we should be able to keep it up. Another example, 8-year-old Alice. Let's say your sister logs into an instant messaging chat room. Before she says anything, before she even starts typing,